So welcome along then to our end of season reviews, and once again we're here down at the Five Rivers in Beavers Valley, and if you're watching on YouTube you can click on the card above our heads to listen to the bumper edition of the end of season reviews, available to download on most audio platforms also below the show. But for YouTube, enjoy our bite-sized reviews of the 2018-19 season, and we'll be taking your questions and clips along the way. This episode is once again sponsored by OneFootball, and do make sure you check out the excellent free OneFootball app to keep up to date and be first to know of all the latest transfer news, the rumours, stats and scores, all in one place. To download the OneFootball app, click the link in the description. So you teased it earlier on in the show. I mean, your catchphrase is always, it's not about what's happened, it's all about what happens next then. Quite a lot of questions coming, a lot of the same questions, in fact, coming on from our Instagram viewers and Twitter followers. But it is going to be a big summer ahead for Ralph. And he has admitted that he wants, I suppose, 2 or 3 players. And quickly, I think the positions are obvious, but where do we need to invest?
Well, as I say, we need to invest it at the back. We need central defenders, and we need another forward. I mean, the other parts of the team, you think we're quite capable. We've got 2 quality left backs. In Jan Valery, we've got a very good up-and-coming right back, although we might lack a bit of cover for him. The midfield, we've got probably 5 or 6 players for 3 central midfield positions. We've got some good wide players in Nathan Redmond,
Shane Long,
James Ward-Prowse. We've got players who can play places and attack sides, and we've got Danny Ings, Shane Long, and Michael Obafemi coming in, assuming Charlie Austin goes. So we've got lots of players, but we need that key quality at the back. So what I think Ralph's quandary is does he get 2 central defenders or does he get 1?
I think we need 2. I think he's also transfer listed Wesley Hoot, Jack Stevens are available for transfer, Charlie Austin also available for transfer. I think you've got to assume that Cedric is available for transfer too. And you know, even the players that are away on loan at the moment, Geordie Classy last year of his contract, Harrison Reed, we have to say it's not going to work out for him, unfortunately. Sam Gallagher to a degree as well. But a question from Harpel Burke, on Instagram: which players would you keep and which players would you let go? Well,
let's start with who should go. So if we start in goal, I think that Alex McCarthy will go. Now I will say that not from a footballing point of view, but they can't shift Fraser Forster because of his wages. So what they've got to do is they'll keep Angus Gunn as the main goalkeeper, and then they'll keep Fraser Forster as backup. Now, that's because they wouldn't be able to get the best they could get if they could shift Fraser is by letting him go on a free or getting some money and then using the transfer fee to pay off his wages. So, and it'd be a big chunk. So I think what they will do, they will possibly be able to get, I don't know, 6 million, 7 million for Alex McCarthy.
I think of the 2, I think McCarthy retains a better transfer fee.
I don't know, because let's look at Fraser Forster, because the trouble is, or not the trouble, but football clubs look at players from what they can do and what they're doing and situations. They don't look at it with emotion when you're looking to buy a player. Now, there's a lot of emotion about Fraser Forster in the fact that a lot of the fans felt that he'd gone to the dogs and gave him a bit. Whereas with Alex McCarthy came in last season and initially wasn't much better than Fraser Forster, but he had a fantastic last 4 games of the season. Now, the Saints did it, the fans were, Alex McCarthy, he's going to play for England, he's going to be great and all that. The club looked at it and said, actually, he's not our goalkeeper going forward, because they spent 12 million on Angus Gunn. Now, Alex McCarthy went in the team, but ultimately he was a dead man walking, as they say. His performances, he wasn't the same keeper that he was last year. So someone in the club, without emotion, had said, this man he's been here 2 years and barely played. He's had 4 or 5 good games. He's not our man going forward. So I think what they will do, I think they could get, Fraser Forster's probably worth 10 million as a goalkeeper on his day. Alex McCarthy isn't, even at his best. So I think they'll take it and say, perhaps Fraser Forster will never get to his best at all, but they can get 6 or 7 million quid for Alex McCarthy and some wages off. So I think McCarthy will go, Forster and Gunn will stay, backed up by one of the youth team.
Okay, I mean, there's also a few other players that are out on loan that, guilty by association, if you like. Sofiane Boufal, been away at Celta Vigo this season, scored a few goals. And Guido Carrillo, once again, linking up with Maurizio Pellegrino at Leganés. But we've also got a clip from Glen de la Cour, the Ligue 1 -10 blog, and here's what he has to say.
Incoming transfers, it's got to be about quality. I would rather we just bought 2 really good players than to buy any squad filler. We've got lots of players who can be squad fillers. We need some absolute quality to come in, especially in the striking positions. Easier said than done, because everyone wants a striker who can score 20 goals a season. I can't see Guido Carrillo being that man, and I'm trying not to laugh. Wouldn't it be great if Guido Carrillo came back and scored 20 goals this season? But not as long as I've got a hole in my backside is that happening.
So Glenn doesn't believe that Guido Carrillo won't come back and score 20 goals. But, he's got a point, though. It is quality that we need. It's unlike previous seasons where we've just transferred a lot of players just to fill gaps. But we need that star quality in the team.
Right, let's say what he's saying. It's funny what he said, the way he said it. But let's look at the past. This time last year, we'd have probably laughed and said the same and said, Nathan Redmond, 30 games, 1 goal, ha, 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 with respect, Glenn. He's not a player for us next season. But stranger things have happened. Nathan Redmond is now player of the season. Now, Guido Carrillo played, I think he started 5 games for Saints, and he started in a team that was playing badly. Was Carrillo worse or better than any other player in that team? No. I mean, who else? No one was scoring goals. Nathan Redmond wasn't scoring. He got 1 goal at Everton. So could Carrillo come back? I agree that perhaps it's not, the most likely situation, but it's not laughable. I mean, we can laugh at Carrillo, but he's played in the Champions League. He's played, for big clubs in France, Spain or wherever, and he's played in the Premier League. So I don't know if Ralph Hasenhuttl can do what he's done with people like James Ward-Prowse, with Nathan Redmond, with Shane Long, all players that were written off a year ago. What can he do with Guido Carrillo, a player that was long gone and out on loan before he's seen? So he hasn't seen him. So I don't laugh and say he'll never score a goal because he hasn't got a hole in his head, because he was no worse than anyone else last season. So that being the same, positivity. It's about positivity. We're too quick to laugh at players and ridicule them. We're not quick enough to try and give them a chance. And as I say, if Nathan Redmond, based on what we're saying about Guido Carrillo, wouldn't have played a game this season and wouldn't have been player of the year.
Personally, I would give Guido Carrillo a chance. And it also has to be given a question mark over Sofiane Boufal's attitude. And that's ultimately what sent him away under Mark Hughes. I mean, Carrillo, Southampton, historically, we've always got that target man, the 6-foot sort of striker to aim for, to hold the ball up. Carrillo can be that man, but I think ultimately it is Ralph actually has done wonders to unlock the potential of players, last season, and that is a key word, a phrase that we always clutch at, and the phrase is always printed around the training ground: potential into excellence.
Yeah, and this is what we've got to look at. Ralph has said that he'll give everyone a chance. So Guido Carrillo, I expect to come back for pre-season training. He's got a long contract. He's got probably a lucrative contract that he's not going to get, or long contract. I think he's got a couple of years left now. So Sofiane Boufal's got a couple of years left. So there's possibility of getting rid of him. But I would expect them, because nothing happens in the transfer window till July.
Well, it's open now. It's open a few days ago.
But nothing happens.
Yeah.
Players don't sign because firstly, they hang on to July the 1st when their loyalty bonuses kick in. And when you've got a £500,000 loyalty bonus coming, you don't sign for someone else 2 weeks earlier, and the agents hang out for more money. So most clubs would like to get their business done in the last week of May. But the fact is, there ain't no one wanting to do business. The selling clubs want to do business, but the agents and players don't, because they want their loyalty bonuses and they want to push out push up transfer fees, etc. So I'd expect them both to be back. I'd expect them to look at it. In fairness, I don't know whether Guido Carrillo is the answer to Saints' striking problems, because I've seen him 5 times. And he wasn't the worst player in some of those games. People forget that he did have some good games and that he created goal. But probably both games at West Brom. If we could play West Brom every week, it would help. But he was quite good in both of those games. So let's give him a chance. And that's all I'm saying. Let's not laugh at players. Let's give them a chance under Ralph Hasenhuttl. And let's leave it to Ralph. Because as you say, if we'd have all written off Nathan Redmond last season, if we'd taken a vote amongst all the supporters, we'd have all voted to drive him out of the town, dragged by wild horses. And yet now here he is, player of the year. So players, I don't expect, realistically, maybe Carrillo might be Ralph's type, but I don't think Sofiane Boufal is the type of player.
But there's another question to ask as well. Wesley, who I think is quite unanimous, even a large part of the fan base would like to drive him to wherever he needs to go, because ultimately the first week in, Ralph said, "You're out." I don't think we're going to see him again, and he's even sort of deleted all of his information about Southampton FC on his social media pages.
There's something's gone on there. I don't think it's to do with the fact that Ralph Hasenhuttl said you're out in terms of his playing ability. Something has gone on, because Ralph Hasenhuttl has come in and said everyone gets a chance. I think Wesley Hoot had enough. And for whatever reason, he'd had enough of Southampton Football Club. Whether it's the fans on his back, whether it is a player, whatever it was, I think Ralph Hasenhuttl came in and said, everyone has to be on the bus. Everyone, and I think Wesley Hoot probably went up and said, "I'm not on the bus." So I don't expect to see Wesley Hoot back. I think we're looking to to keep it quick here, I think we'll look to sell Alex McCarthy. I think we'll look to sell Cedric. I think we'll look to sell Jack Stevens. I think if we got a reasonable fee for Yoshida, we'd sell him, who's 31, so at the end of his tether.
He's an elder statesman of the team now.
Yeah, but he is. But being the oldest player in the team doesn't make you the leader. And that's the problem with Yoshida. Yoshida has been a good backup player over the years, and at times, in our heyday, was 3rd or 4th choice. But you could get away with him in the team because you had leaders alongside him. You had someone like Jose Fonte who'd go, mark him, get tight, push up. And, Yoshida, I've got no problem with Yoshida as what he's done and has been as a servant to a club, but he's been a servant to the club for a good reason. And he's not, you've got to have leaders in amongst them. And I don't think Ralph quite fancies him because his pension, when he came back from the World Cup, or not the World Cup, whatever it was over in Asia, was to play Jack Stevens. And it was only when Jack Stevens mucked up drastically that he turned to Yoshida. So I wouldn't expect both to go, but I would expect if we got a bigger fee for Yoshida and Stevens, one of them will go. Then perhaps Bertrand, maybe they'll think that Bertrand, if they can get a decent fee for him, but again, I'd expect him to stay with Target. And then you're looking at players like Charlie Austin. In the centre of midfield, you're probably looking, we've got Lamina, we've got Armstrong, we've got Ward-Prowse, we've got Romeo, we've got Højbjerg.
We're covered in central midfield.
Perhaps Stuart Armstrong they might get rid of, get the money back on. He's been a little bit there. Perhaps Lamina's missed most of the season. Perhaps they would fancy if someone can get the money back on him. So I would perhaps think that maybe there's a couple of players in there. Maybe Lamina or Armstrong might go. Then you get down to the players you've mentioned. Harrison Reed, people like Harrison Reed. He's a battler, but ultimately he's not big enough for the Premier League. He's only started about 2 Premier League games, or a handful anyway, for Saints. The Championship is probably a good level for him. Sam Gallagher scored goals in the Championship, but not exactly set it alight. To give an example, when he was at Birmingham, Lukas Djukovic was probably scoring about the same amount. Sam, probably what he needs to do with Sam Gallagher is go to a good Championship club and then perhaps do what Sam Vokes did, make himself a Premier League player by having 2-3 good seasons in the Championship and scoring goals regularly. But yeah, we could get some allegedly an £8 million bid for Sam, so maybe we could get some money on that. Jake Hesketh, he scored goals in League One.
And League Two, quite easily.
Yeah, but that's not the Premier League. And where would he fit in the team? And, there's a few of that. So we could possibly get rid of 10 to 12 players without it affecting the squad.
So how much are we saying here? How much do we need to raise? What do you think a reasonable budget would be? 40 to 50 million?
Well, given that we've already got 10 million in McKitty from Manolo Gabbiadini, which we didn't use in January, I would expect us to be able to raise another 40 to 50 million from the sale of those players, if we can get that money. So when you totted up a few million here and there, we could probably raise a transfer kitty of around 60 million. But there's been a mood change in the club. And the mood change, with the departure of Ralph Kruger, who was very much about running a business and running to it, and under the Lieber blueprint, which was the club runs as a business and generates its own income. I think the Chinese are famous for gambling, and I think the Chinese are going to loosen the purse strings now they're in control a little bit more than this. So I'd expect us to go out, if we can raise 40, 50, 60 million, to go out and spend it on 2 or 3 good players.
Yeah, like Glenn said, it's quality that we need to enhance the squad. But if we talk about, it's not always about buying big, but we have seen this season actually 5 academy players have debuted in the first team. We're a total of 11 graduates enjoying minutes in the Premier League or FA Cup this season. How many more youngsters do you think will be given more of a chance or a regular chance into next season?
It'd be interesting to see. I mean, we've debuted a few graduates. I mean, again, Callum Slattery, it looked good, looked the part. I'd expect him to play a bigger part next season. Kanye West, is it? No,
Kane Ramsey.
Kane Ramsey. Spells the name sooner. Kane Ramsey. And the other guy who played at the back.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, you've got me there. But the 2 of them, they came in, but they're, again, jury's out on them, need to see a bit more of them. One player I think might come in, and this comes in with the centre halves, really. They signed Clara, is it?
Yeah. Christoph Clara.
Christoph Clara. They signed him on a contract. He's come from Austria Vienna, so he's Austrian as well. So he can speak to Ralph as well on the bench. He could be making a breakthrough. So in the centre, they need... As Glenn says, it's about quality. We need to get rid of the quantity, and that means seeing a few players go that perhaps we don't like, or your Yoshidas, your Stevens, who people do like or see as long-term servants. Getting rid of the people that have taken us down to the level we've gone in the last couple of years and bringing in a bit of new blood. Centre halves, Yannick Vestergaard is, playing with a good quality player could do well. Jan Bednarek can do well. Clara would be a good backup if they feel he's ready.
And it has to be said, the under-23s have also won promotion to the first division in their age group too.
Yeah, I mean, it's no real... I mean, you look at that. I mean, I remember 20 years ago, Saints got to the semi-finals of the FA Youth Club Cup and not one player made it as a professional. So I only take it at what they do when they play for the first team. So we've got to clear a few decks. There'll be a few controversial departures, I think. But if we get that quality in rather than quantity, and again, centre halves, we could go with 2, but Bednarek and Vestergaard are good players. Add a decent quality centre half, and you've got 3, and perhaps you'd have Clara as one backup, and maybe keep Yoshida as a second, or as a second backup. So that's 5. So we could get away with 1. If we do get 2, then then Yoshida and Stevens are surplus to requirements, unfortunately, and a good forward.
All right. Well, excellent stuff then, Nick. I think you're on the clock now, so I think at this point we're going to get ourselves a top-up. Make a little substitution when Clive gets here. But for now, for YouTube, in fact, leave us a comment below. Where do you think we need to invest?